there, I'm Anita, a science pro and robotics prodigy. I've won countless trophies, including one for making a talking replica of BB-8. But it's my crush's heart that I can't win. Tom has just refused to accompany me to the last middle school dance. But who cares? I've got my bestie Barb. It'll still be fun. We can go together. We arrived at the dance to find that everyone had dates, except for us. Well, this is a little awkward. Move. This is a dance floor, grannies. Either you dance or get out. I bet this is the first party you've ever got to attend. As if Tom would go out with such a loser. Yeah, you should try asking your robots out instead. As they walked off laughing, I felt so disheartened. Barb told me not to listen to them, but their words niggled away at me. I realized if I didn't change, then I'd waste the rest of my teen years by being a loser that got left out of all the fun. I needed to reinvent myself now before it was too late. Over the summer break, I thought it over and realized that there was only one way forward. I should flip the script, where nobody knew who I was. And this is the perfect occasion for that. High school! I purposely chose a school that's across the city. It's a bit inconvenient, but that's how to be sure I'd not run into anyone from my local middle school. Of course, except for Barb. She's going there with me also. Hey, recognize me? I'm still Anita. Like my new look? I've had a style update, ditched my glasses and all the uncool geeky stuff. Ooh, let's surprise my bestie. Anita? Whoa, talk about a Captain Marvel transformation. Gee, thanks. This hair color is so in season right now. Hang on, you look just like Chelsea. Oh, do I? How funny. You sound like her too. Okay, so Chelsea was this popular girl from middle school. Yeah, I may have spent all summer studying her. Alright, I actually mirrored her style and mannerisms. I'm just learning to better myself. This isn't any different from using humans as models when programming a robot. Besides, it's not like Chelsea's here to mind. Speaking of robots, how's your BB-8? No, that's my past. We'll never be cool and get boyfriends if our peers think we're nerds. Come with me after school, I'll give you a makeover too. It's okay, Anita. I don't mind being a nerd. But if this makes you happy, then you have my full support. My sweet, naive Barb has no idea how incredible being cool would be. They're the cool kids here, aka celebrities. They're so dazzling and popular. And oh my god, who's that? He's so dreamy. So I confidently strutted over to introduce myself to the whole group when... Luckily, no one seemed to notice my fall, or they just didn't care. Anyways, this was only my first day here. I had loads of time to fit in with the celebrities, and then catch that hottie, who supposedly named Eric's attention. At first, the popular girls didn't notice me, but then a few days in, Lou, the celebrity's leader, had a lipstick emergency and I sprung to her rescue. See? I told you, this burgundy shade really pops against your cool undertone. Ruby Woo? That's so 2015, Ashley. You can put that away. And easy peasy, I became part of the group. They invited me to their parties, shopping trips, and spa days. It's like entering a completely new world, an extra shiny one. I got to sit with them at lunch where they Ubered low-calorie food. Normally, I had the same as them, but today my mom packed me a special sandwich with the moist maker, just like Ross's from Friends. Sorry guys, but Anita doesn't share food! Are you seriously going to drink that? You can practically see the fat and lactose swirling in it. Gross. Oh, okay. Looks like the moist maker would have to wait. I looked around and saw Barb sharing her mom's amazeballs mac and cheese with her new geeky friends. I've not spoken to Barb properly in weeks. We kept trying to reschedule as I had manicures with Lou, Haley's party, and all these other after-school shopping trips, which kept getting so expensive. Aren't you gonna buy that? You haven't bought anything. That's because I only wear tailor-made clothes made of Egyptian cotton or at least silk linen. Okay. In that case, you can be our assistant. Make sure you wear a cute cardigan tomorrow for our OOTD Instagram post. Ashley has made a list of the available colors. That's why I had to use all of my allowance on this cardigan. But it's fine. That's just how popular cliques had to be. And it's so nice of them to let me hang around. I proudly strutted alongside the celebs, looking just like one of them. Other students gawped at us, and it sure felt good. But suddenly this dizzy spell came over me. I started shaking and feeling cold. Then, pitch black. I woke up in the infirmary to Barb's worried face. Oh good, you're awake. It's no surprise you passed out. You aren't eating enough. What? I'm eating just fine. Besides, skinny is chic. I'm not arguing with you. You're lucky your head didn't hit the floor thanks to Eric. Eric saved me? He must have caught me like in a romantic movie. This diet is amazing. I wouldn't have been in Eric's arms without it. Later, I tried to thank him, but he put his headphones on and walked off. And I never saw him at any of the celebs' parties or anything. A hot guy like him is probably hanging out with an even cooler clique and interested in even more popular girls. I need to try harder. But my geeky side wasn't going to stay suppressed. One time, this guy slated Spider-Man 2099, my favorite character ever. Dude doesn't understand how the multiverse works, and his suit sucks. Are you kidding me? As if you know how it works. His suit incorporates Parker tech and has stealth features and exploding spider saucers. Okay, cool it, new girl. It's just some weirdo jumps around in spandex. Right, be cool. Cool kids didn't geek out over superheroes. Luckily, everyone else seemed distracted. I turned to look and saw them already flocked around some new kid with a huge backpack, a comic t-shirt, and jeans. It's like looking at middle school me. When I managed to get a closer look, I almost fell over in shock. It was Chelsea! Why would pretty, popular Chelsea do a total 180 on her looks? I tried to avoid Chelsea, but then one time when I was trying to approach Eric, she appeared, and he actually spoke to her. Does Chelsea know Eric? Since when? How come? Ah! Time stopped as I stared into his big, dreamy eyes, but falling for each other again? You might as well just stay in his arms. I quickly walked away and passed Chelsea. Our eyes met. Did she recognize me? She didn't say anything, but was that a smirk I saw? I needed to find out if Chelsea really recognized me, so I turned to Barb. It was a bit awkward, as we hadn't spoken in a while, but luckily Barb was cool about it and said she'd try to find out. We chatted a bit, and then she asked me, "We are still going to Comic-Con on the 7th, right?" "Yeah, of course. Can't wait." I was excited about Comic-Con until a few days later, the celebrities had a big announcement. They were attending Conan Gray's concert on the 7th. Are you coming, or do you have some tragic nerdy convention to go to? Huh? That's oddly specific. I panicked and said yes to the concert. We had to give money to Ashley the next day, and she would take care of purchasing everyone's tickets. But thanks to that overpriced cardigan, how am I supposed to afford this? I guess there was one way to pay for it. Me and Barb's Comic-Con fund, which we'd been saving since middle school. I was only borrowing and would definitely pay it back. The following day, the celebs gathered to discuss the concert. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a flustered-looking Barb. What about our plan? Did you just spend all your savings on some concert you don't even care about? I'm sorry, I promise I'll pay you back. I just needed some time. So, you spent my share too? How could you? I felt terrible. I never meant to upset my friend like that. I just really wanted to fit in. Only, after that day, I found myself miserable with the celebs. The more time I spent with them, the more things about them got me second-guessing this group's dynamic. For instance, they talked a lot about the importance of being eco-friendly, but ordered Uber Eats almost every day, and constantly brought new, cute, reusable straws in Stanley cups. Moreover, it was always lose weight or the highway, and they even trash-talked their own group members behind their backs. I found myself often looking around for Barb and then feeling extra guilty. On my way home, I was dragging my feet, feeling awful, when I passed an appliance store. I saw some students from my school's robotics team struggling with their droid, so I gladly offered a hand. "If you want my lunch money, take it, but please leave Gears Brosnan alone. We worked hard on it." I tried explaining that I just wanted to help, but they kept pushing me away. I stared down at myself and realized that I wasn't welcomed because I'd given up everything to look like a celebrity. However, I didn't feel like one. I'd stood by and let the celebs push everyone else around. Was this really the life I wanted? That weekend was supposed to be spa day with the celebs, so I went out to the mall to ask Lou for my concert ticket. I was gonna sell it and pay Barb back. Only when I got there, I saw Chelsea with them, but she looked like her cool self again. Uh-oh, I better go. But too late. Chelsea caught me and told everyone. "Guys, look who's here. Fun fact, Anita and I used to be friends back in middle school. Cover yourself in foundation all you want, but your nerdiness will still show." Everyone started laughing, and that's when it dawned on me. They were all in on Chelsea's plans to expose me. I wanted to leave, but I still needed my ticket back. "Sure, you can have it back, but on one condition. Wash off your Chelsea disguise and go back to being pathetic little you again." And so they told me to wash my hair in this decorative basin in a Lush store before everyone's confused eyes and their live streaming cameras. I swallowed my pride and did it. For Barb. But afterward, Lou turned back on her word. "Actually, I gave it to Chelsea. Tough luck. Oops, too bad I never agreed to the deal Lou made with you." I felt overcome with panic and shame. I ran and I bumped into someone. Eric! Seeing how upset I was, he took me for coffee and a chat. As soon as we sat down, I burst into tears and told him how I'd lost everything. My popularity, dignity, friends. It all started to fall apart when Chelsea turned up all of a sudden, and then the domino effect took over. Chelsea? I'd always known she's catty, but I never thought she'd go that far. How can you be friends with her? What? No, it's not what you think. You still don't recognize me? What do you mean recognize? Then he revealed that he was from my middle school. I was shooketh. But if I squinted real hard, I guess he did look vaguely familiar. Whoa, puberty hit you like a truck. Same for you. Yeah, no, it wasn't puberty for me. I got emotionally scarred from being an outcast and became afraid of missing out on cool stuff, so I turned myself into a Chelsea clone to be popular. That's insane. But if it means anything, I prefer the old you. It's great seeing you at the school, but when I saw that you changed and joined the celebs, I was kinda apprehensive. But for real though, I would have died for you to notice me. I was beyond surprised. He liked me all along? Suddenly, Chelsea jumped in. Why has it always been her? I changed myself to look like her. Didn't you say you liked nerdy girls? So why not me? Say what? Chelsea liked Eric? So she really copied my look. And for that reason? I'm sorry, Chelsea, but it's my feelings. I can't believe you rejected me twice for this little nerd, and she doesn't even look like herself anymore. Chelsea, it's never been about looks. It's about who she is. In the midst of it, I finally understood something. I was fine just being me. I never needed to be anything else. I've switched schools and turned myself into a dork for you! Ah! You're lucky this time. I watched Chelsea stomp out. I realized how I was constantly anxious and on edge, that I'd messed up while hanging out with the celebrities. I missed the truly happy moments with real friends where I could just be me. All this time, I thought I'd been missing out on all the fun, but turns out, I missed nothing. The true way to have beautiful teenage years is to spend it with people that really appreciate you and do the things that you actually enjoy. I thanked Eric, then left. There was something important I needed to do first. I went home and fixed my BB-8, then took it over to Barb's house. Sorry, Barb. I'm so sorry, Barb. I was so desperate to be cool that I overlooked what really mattered. I miss you and our friendship so much. I missed you too. And I saw that humiliating video and just wanted to know you were okay. On second thoughts, I'll forgive you if you give me your BB-8. No can do, as I'm selling it online to make money to pay you back. I only brought it here to make my apology more meaningful. Did it work? We both hug. The next few days at school, I tried my best to fix things. I returned to my old image, well, with a slight upgrade. I can't let my beauty skills go to waste now. And I dug out all my geeky stuff. I showed up at the robotics club, and this time I confidently strode over and immediately fixed their robot. I told you I could help. Don't judge a book by its cover. That's the celebrity's job. Look at you, all happy and smiley with your own loser nerd kind. Yeah, I'm happy. Well, you once tried and failed to be one of us, remember? Being a nerd isn't just about appearance, it's about what's inside. By the way, how was the concert? I heard your fanatic behavior got you kicked out. Sounds exciting. Chelsea and the celebs looked fuming as they sashayed off, but I didn't care, as I was finally back where I belonged.
Bonjour! I'm Chloe, and I live here in the French city of Toulouse. I'm working on my debut romance novel about a couple destined to be together despite all the hurdles they face. If you like the sound of it, then leave a comment. Boo! Lost in your dumb fictional world again? If you like the sound of it, then leave a comment. That's Cedric, my brother. But I doubt it, because we have nothing in common. And he's a massive pain in my... Anyway, I guess you could say I'm introverted, and I dream of becoming a best-selling romance novelist, making a living out of doing what I love. Only dreams don't always go to plan, and publishing houses don't seem to like my drafts. Meanwhile, Cedric is Satan in disguise, whose sole purpose is making my life miserable. He turned off my alarm and made me late for a meeting, changed all of my contacts' names to emojis, and one time I woke up to see my laptop covered all in plastic wrap. The problem was he got away with being a jerk simply because he was deemed good-looking. In his fangirl's eyes, he could do no wrong. Living with Cedric was such an endurance test, so I avoided him the best I could by going to a private school, instead of the same public school as him. Everything was fine until our parents lost everything in stocks, and we had no choice but to move into this teeny, tiny house. One night I went downstairs to get some water and saw Mom and Dad up late with bills piled up around them. Seeing them like that made me desperately want to help. So the next day I told him that the public school had a creative writing club and that I wanted to transfer there. My tuition fees weren't a burden anymore, but going to the same school as Cedric was not ideal. So I insisted that he acted like he didn't know me at all. Still, the first few days were terrible as I kept getting lost and felt so out of place. I hardly looked up and only identified other students by their shoes. Thank goodness for the pink and white sneaker girl, Emma. She was the only person who actually noticed me, and when I told her about my writing dreams, she was really supportive. We became best friends and could chat about everything, even my annoying brother. Things were better at school, but not at home. My parents were still struggling to hide their money problems, and Cedric, well, was just being Cedric. Couldn't he see that now wasn't the time for his clown antics? I helped out as much as I could by cleaning, doing laundry, preparing meals, and even got a part-time job in a patisserie, while he literally did nothing. Why can't you stop fooling around?
Chill out, sis. Even when you have a mare, all the stress will give you gray hair.
Fine, act like a moron and stay in this moronic place forever. I'll get our old house back alone. After a busy shift, I just wanted to get home and go straight to bed. Only when walking along the curb, I spotted Cedric doing some dumb, noisy performance. Ugh, such a laughable, selfish bum. I had to seriously hold back, or else my fist would definitely land on his face. Oh, I still had the last chapter to finish. My body was ready to shut down, but I couldn't slack. Not if I wanted to complete it by Louis Beaumont's book launch. He's my favorite author. I'd planned for months to fly to Nice and hand him my manuscript. Suddenly, the lights went out.
Guys, looks like the electricity company cut us off because of those unpaid bills.
Gosh, we can't live like this. So I pulled out some money from the back of the manuscript. This was money for my Nice trip. But this is more urgent, so I gotta do what I have to do. Mom, Dad, here's some money, just to help out a bit. The next day, Cedric barged into my room with a smug grin on his face.
Guess who's going to Paris? Try not to miss me too much, will ya?
What? But where did you get your money from?
Mom and Dad? Duh. Check it out.
That's my money? I can't believe this. We don't even have electricity, but they gave him money to go mess around in Paris? I shoved him out of my room and slammed the door shut. I'd always tried my best to not disappoint them, yet they favored my deadbeat brother and spoiled him rotten. All this family stuff was eating me up, so on school day, I confided in Emma. Only when I tried talking to her, she seemed distracted and kept drifting with the music. Em, are you listening? Oh, sorry, but this beat is straight up fire. Look, he's the winner of this contest. Isn't he amazing and talented? I looked at her phone and saw, what? Cedric? So he came to Paris for this stupid contest? Don't talk about him, okay? That's my selfish, uncaring brother I've always talked about. Be his fan, and we can't be friends anymore. Things got even worse when Cedric went home and literally made it rain with his reward money. Chloe, look at all of this money your brother won.
Thanks to his talent, we can go back to our old house.
Ugh, why is everything so easy for Cedric? He did some nonsense rap and became a celebrity? Meanwhile, it's me who had to give up my trip, my dream. At least we got the old house back, but day after day, these annoying reporters are driving me crazy.
How did you come up with meaningful lyrics?
Meaningful? Everyone knows rap isn't actually music. It's just some noise full of swearing and insults.
Yeah, ignore her. She's just cranky from skipping breakfast.
There's no escaping Cedric's name, not even at school. Please, please, please introduce me to him. Why are you so obsessed with him? Don't you remember anything I said about how terrible he is? Come on, give his music a try. I can't believe someone who wrote such beautiful lyrics can be as bad as you say he is. Fine. If she wanted to meet him, then I'd grant her that wish. It's about time she saw his true face. I opened the door and showed Emma inside when suddenly we were covered in a cloud of confetti.
Why the long face? My grand welcome was the bomb.
Do you know how long it would take to clean this mess? This is my brother. An idiot. Idiot brother. But then I turned around to see Emma already soaking up Cedric's every word. I can't take this anymore. My time would be better spent writing. Trembling thoughts, through fear, your eyes will find mine.
Love will bind us like a cat's 9 lives.
Wow, that's perfect. Wait, that voice sounds unfamiliar. Oh my, this guy was heartthrob level handsome.
Bonjour, I'm Pierre, Cedric's colleague. Is he home?
Yes, let me show you the way. What are you seeking him for?
We're collaborating on my next album, so I'm here to practice.
As a senior singer, I also helped Cedric build his show and industry connections. He's superb, isn't he? After that day, Pierre visited my house more often. Turns out he's a sweet and gentle guy who always brought us gifts, such as flowers and scented candles. And after dinner, he even helped me wash up. How can such an angel work with my devil brother? One day when I was out with Emma, suddenly she looped her arm around me and said, "You sure seem chirper these days." It's probably because Cedric's often away on music shows. You're telling me it has nothing to do with Pierre? Come on, Chloe, it's written all over your face. Fine. He's really sweet, and his smile's as bright as the sun. How can I approach someone like him? Why not start with a love letter? I took Emma's advice and wrote the most romantic letter ever, then brought it to his company. If anyone asks, I'll say I'm here to see my brother. Huh? Are they arguing? I went over to Pierre and asked him what had happened. Oh, it's nothing really. Cedric is just stressed out from his busy schedule. Yeah, right. As if there was anything stressful about this nonsense rap thing. Now is my moment, so I stuffed the letter in Pierre's hand, then ran away. I was still giddy with excitement when I arrived home. Only Cedric ruined my mood by sitting there looking like he'd swallowed a wasp. Oh no, are all showbiz parties too tiring? What a tragedy. Shut it, Chloe. What does a dreamer like you know? Dreamer? At least I'm not a self-centered, shallow idiot. I sacrificed everything so you could go after your dumb rap career, and all you do is act like an ungrateful jerk. Grow up and stop being so childish. I expected him to shout back at me, but instead he gave me this dead look, then trudged off to his room. He didn't come down for dinner or anything for the next 3 days. This house sure was quiet without him. But he's a chill guy and things will go back to normal soon, right? I guess I should just enjoy the peace while I could. The next day, Emma showed up at my house all worked up. Is Cedric here? He didn't answer any texts and calls. Huh? You two are messaging each other? I just wonder if he's okay. How typical of you to talk to him behind my back. To my surprise, Emma just impatiently barred past me and ran up to Cedric's room. Then she reappeared with a note. Cedric's gone. Jeez, how irresponsible and impulsive. He really doesn't care about anyone but himself. Enough! I won't listen to you badmouth your brother anymore. Can't you see he's seriously struggling and showing signs of depression? Who's the one who doesn't care about family here? And you really believe you're better than him? Emma's outburst left me stunned. Is Cedric really depressed? How was I meant to know that when he's always goofing around? That evening, Mom and Dad kept fretting about Cedric's disappearance. He gave his all to help us while we could do nothing to help him. Remember those days he performed on the streets? He gave us all the money he earned, and he always tried to cheer us up when things were down. Cedric only wanted to join the rap contest to win some more money. He was very nervous, but we believed in him, so we gave him the money to enter. Oh God, so I misunderstood him all along? Suddenly I remembered his winning track that Emma insisted that I listen to. I went up to my room and turned it on. It's about us, his beloved family. Turns out he wasn't a deadbeat, idle loser like I thought he was. He always puts on a happy face to lift other spirits while quietly struggling with his own demons. I needed to find him and apologize immediately, so I went to Pierre for help. I had no idea he was struggling so badly. I should have noticed that he was suffering and not overloaded him with work. But there's an important show coming. If Cedric was a no-show, he'd be in breach of his contract and have to pay a huge sum in compensation. Oh no, that's not good. What should we do now? You know what? You look a lot like Cedric. How about you disguise as him? But how? Don't worry, our makeup team is top-notch. Nobody's gonna know. This all sounded crazy, but it seemed like I had no other choice. My family couldn't be in debt again for this. Being this close to Pierre made my heart flutter. He took me for my makeover, then I learned to lip-sync and perform on stage. I even tried to walk and talk like my brother. I felt bad about deceiving his fans, but I couldn't risk Cedric getting into big trouble. It's only a one-time thing. Sometimes I lip-sync too. It's no big deal. I felt a bit confused. Then suddenly, a stage crew member above me accidentally dropped a wrench. It could have knocked me off if Pierre didn't swoop in and save the day. Now, back to practicing, and oh boy, was it hectic. Pierre stayed with me the whole time and was really supportive. We also never stopped trying to look for Cedric together. I felt our connection growing, but couldn't figure out why he hadn't made any move. Maybe my first letter hadn't been clear enough, so I sneaked into Pierre's room and left him another one. Only later that day, I saw him glued to his phone, so I took a glance. Huh? He was messaging somebody with a very cheesy nickname. Right, he wasn't interested because he was already dating someone else. Oh no, I have to reclaim my second letter before humiliating myself. I ran into his room but couldn't find it anywhere. Wait, what's this? Here comes the big night. I was absolutely terrified. Pierre smiled sweetly at me and held my hands. We shared a look, then stepped on stage together. There were so many people out there. My legs felt numb, but then I spotted Emma beaming at me from the front row, and my nerves eased again. I quickly found the beat, then lip-synced and danced perfectly. But halfway through the song, the stage lights suddenly went off and a shadowy figure walked toward me. Cedric! The audience oohed and awed, then clapped in excitement as Cedric continued the rest of the performance. During the break, everyone went backstage and saw Pierre grab Cedric's arm. Cedric, where have you been? We've all been worried sick. Drop the act. You're just using me to make yourself rich, forcing me to do show after show, and when I was exhausted, you pushed lip-syncing onto me. What are you talking about? These shows are to help you gain support. Starting out in this industry is hard. Hey, I even lent you some money to get your house back. You mean the money you used to tie my brother in with his stupid contract? You compelled Cedric to work exclusively with you, performing 2 years for free to clear his debt. But according to these receipts for each show, the money he should have received already exceeded the amount he owed you. What the? Surprised much? Now we have all the evidence against you. So what? Cedric signed it anyway. A contract is a contract. Break it and I'll get you kicked out of the company and make sure you never get any show again. Your whole family will be dirt poor like before. I don't think so. What would the public say if they knew you've been flirting with him all along, and when he rejected you, you manipulated and overworked him until he agreed to date you? How long have you known? Long enough to expose you. Now, you have 2 options. 1, cancel the contract within the next 24 hours and pay my brother the excess money you exploited from him. Or 2, we'll publish what you did and see if you survive in showbiz afterward. I don't hate you for having feelings for me, but this deal is not fair. Pierre looked nervous and angry, then just stormed off. I turned to my annoying, goofy brother and gave him a big hug. I'm sorry for misunderstanding you before. Why didn't you tell us that you borrowed money to get back our house? I know how much you wanted our house back, so I joined the contest, but the prize money wasn't enough. That's when I asked Pierre. Silly me. If you hadn't found the contract and receipts, I would have still believed his lies and worked till exhaustion. So you did get my message. I was about to shut off all connections to the world. But that day I felt super uneasy, so I opened my phone and saw your message. Must be sibling telepathy. One more thing. Emma, you truly helped me find myself again. What do you say? Do you want to be a superstar rapper's girlfriend? Yes, I do. Please keep the lovey-dovey stuff to a minimum in front of me. Luckily, I was spared when a stage crew called Cedric to go back on stage. You know, it's not easy for us artists to have a big platform, literally like the stage. We always have a price to pay for the glory. Because of that, I'm eternally grateful for my amazing family and friends who always have my back. And a big shout out to my sister for being my inspiration for this song. Then he started rapping to my poetry. His rhymes and my poems are flowing, really getting the crowd going. He's a lyrical gymnastic genius. After the show, Cedric received a video from Pierre. Cedric, I'm sorry for taking advantage of you. I like you so much and wanted to keep you close. I'll pay back what I owe you, then take a break from showbiz for a while. I really hope one day you can forgive me. Phew! All that drama was a lot for my introverted self to handle. So now I've treated myself to some me time to recharge. Thanks to Cedric rapping, dozens of my publishers reached out to me for my poems, including those who'd previously rejected me. Gosh, am I seeing it wrong? A mail from Louis Beaumont himself? I can't wait to see him in person. And you, keep working on your dream. Perhaps a secret angel is on the way to bring you a wonderful opportunity.
it's me, Lou. I'm back again to tell you the next part of my story. Firstly, here's a quick refresher. So, in the last episode, I discovered that Aaliyah was responsible for all the hate mails, so she got asked to leave Plutus Heights. Then, Naomi moved out too, so I moved in with her, and that's when she told me she was in love with me. Fortunately, after I politely rejected her, we could still be friends. As for things with Mark, we bumped into his parents in a French restaurant right on our 6-month anniversary, and his dad told him to break up with me. I hoped that he would protect me from his dad's insults, but no! Can you believe Mark didn't even stand up for me? I was so angry, and we started quarreling. Then I went on a trip with Naomi, David, and Will, where Will told me that if I was his girlfriend, he'd never let anyone hurt me. So that's a quick recap of the last episode. Now, are you ready for the next part of my story? When we got back from that trip, I felt much better because it reminded me how amazing and supportive my friends are. I kept thinking about what Will had said, that I had to go speak to Mark and see if he thought we had a future together. Maybe he was right. However, Mark and I hadn't even talked since then. In fact, he hadn't even tried to contact me. This silence made me exhausted. Although I couldn't forget what Mark's dad had said about me, I still loved Mark so much. And honestly, I missed him like crazy. I couldn't wait any longer, so eventually, I decided to just call him. When he answered, he sounded like he didn't even have time to speak to me, and his voice had such a cold tone. I found myself apologizing to him for what I'd said because it was not okay. Then I said I wanted to continue with our relationship and that we didn't need to worry about the future yet because we were still so young. Mark agreed, but he didn't say much, just that he was busy and would call me back later. Afterwards, I felt relieved. The Cold War between us had made me sad and miserable, but everything was going to be okay. And yet, I couldn't get his cold tone out of my head. Why was he acting so indifferent? Did he not love me anymore? A few weeks later, things weren't much better. I could count on one hand the amount of times Mark and I had seen each other because he was so busy with the company and the investment club. As for me, I had to study a lot before graduating so that I could help my parents. It was really frustrating. If I didn't call Mark, he wouldn't call me at all. I often looked at the cufflink that I'd found when he saved me and found myself getting lost in thoughts of the past. He used to call me all the time, no matter how busy he was. I missed that. Suddenly, I was so worried. It felt like our love was fading, and nothing could prevent it. If that really happened, how would I cope? One day, I called my dad to see if he was okay, and he sounded exhausted. Then he told me something that shocked me even more than the bankruptcy. Him and my mom were getting a divorce. I couldn't believe it. I asked him how this had happened, but he just sighed and told me that he wanted rest and would call me back later. And then he hung up. Eventually, I called my aunt, who was my dad's sister, to find out the truth. She said that my mom had been having an affair with a rich man who'd been my dad's partner for a long time because she couldn't stand this poverty anymore. Oh my God, this was too much. There I was, wrapped up in my petty love drama, when in fact, my dad needed me. This had to be the most difficult moment of his life, and there was no way I could leave him all alone. I got to my parents' house, and I was shaking as I opened the door. I wanted to wake up from this nightmare to have my mom back. When I saw my dad sitting on the couch, he looked surprised to see me. He just smiled and asked me to come sit down. It looked like he'd lost some weight, and he told me my mom had moved out a few days ago. I couldn't hold back my tears. Our lives were falling apart. My mom hadn't even told me any of this. She just made the decision by herself and left. How could she do this to us? How could she be so selfish? Back at Plutus Heights, everyone knew my parents were getting divorced. Naomi and David had texted me to comfort me, but Mark hadn't even texted me once. He must have known because David was his cousin and told him everything. So what was wrong with him? He was my boyfriend, and he didn't even care. All he had to do was call me or even just text and say he hoped I was okay. But nope, nothing. Suddenly, I realized how stupid I'd been. I'd been chasing him this whole time, and now when I needed him the most, he was nowhere to be seen. That evening, I decided to make dinner for my dad, and it made me think about the good old days when Mom was still here. My dad loved to cook, and my mom would always be his assistant, helping him chop veg and clean up the kitchen. I missed my mom so much. Why did life have to be like this? Love was so fragile. Could Mark and I get through this? As I was wondering about this, the doorbell rang. I ran to open it, and to my complete surprise, Will was standing there with a bottle of wine and a basket of fruit. I literally gasped in surprise. What was he doing here? He just smiled and said he'd had a meeting nearby and wanted to pop by to say hello. My dad was excited because ever since the bankruptcy, no one had been around to visit him. My dad went into the kitchen and started cooking, and Will and I helped him. Will chatted to my dad in such a friendly way, and they were getting along so well. Every so often, Will would look over at me and smile. It made me blush, and I didn't understand why. The three of us sat down to enjoy the meal, and it made me happy to see my dad so excited. He couldn't stop chatting to Will, and even asked him if he had a girlfriend at one point. He just laughed and said, "I'm just waiting for the right girl." Then he looked at me. Suddenly, I felt a bit flustered and reached out for the bottle of wine. But Will reached out at exactly the same moment, and our hands touched. I blushed and felt so embarrassed. What was wrong with me? Was it because I was drunk? Will must have sensed I was embarrassed, because he changed the subject and started saying how he was a big fan of the dishes in my family's restaurant and that he missed it so much. So my dad said he could come over whenever he was free, and my dad would cook them for him. Then they continued to chat about food and business, and Will said that even though he couldn't afford to help my dad rebuild the business, he wanted to invest a little bit to help him open a small restaurant and start again. At first, my dad was so shocked and moved by Will's suggestion, but then he agreed and kept thanking him, saying that cooking made his life more meaningful. I couldn't believe it. Will was being so kind, and I didn't know how to repay him. I told him I'd pay him back after graduation. Then after dinner, he stayed and chatted to my dad for hours. I could see it really cheered my dad up. I was so grateful to Will and couldn't stop thinking about that evening. He'd made me feel so secure, and he was just so considerate. Soon, we were about to graduate. We decided to organize a ceremony along with a big photo shoot together to celebrate, and it was going to take place at a resort which was owned by one of our classmates' family. However, just before, there was a rumor going around that Aaliyah's sensitive photos had been exposed, and her rich fiancé had decided to cancel their wedding even though it was going to be in a few weeks. This was such bad news for Aaliyah. I wondered if she would come to the ceremony. Well, anyway, the ceremony day arrived, and tons of photographers had been hired. There was so much wine and food, and there was even a red carpet. It was so fancy, and we all took photos together. This was our last party as students, and we wanted to make it one to remember. Mark hadn't arrived yet, as he said he'd had a meeting to go to first, so would be a bit late. I was hanging out with Naomi and Will. As for Jeremy, he had a drink and chatted with others on the other side to avoid Naomi. Then, after a while, Aaliyah arrived too. She looked really annoyed, and Naomi whispered to me to be careful around her, in case she caused any trouble. Well, not 1 minute later, Aaliyah was marching towards me. She was smirking and said, "So your family went bankrupt, and yet you can still afford to attend this fancy ceremony? Lou, honestly, you don't belong here. Run back home to your poor family." Finding that what she was saying was nonsense, I just walked away from her without saying anything. Honestly, I had nothing to say to that rude girl. But then I heard Naomi and Aaliyah arguing. Naomi was saying that Aaliyah had no right to judge me, and then I heard Aaliyah shouting back. That's when I realized I had to do something. I stepped in between them and asked them to stop, but Aaliyah wouldn't give up. Suddenly, she pushed me into the pool. The next moment, I was under the water and I was shocked. I couldn't get to the surface. I was choking and struggling and felt myself sinking. Right when I was panicking the most, I could just make someone out, jumping into the pool and grabbing me. I thought to myself, "Mark, is that you? Saving me again?" Then I passed out. As I opened my eyes, I saw a boy standing over me, soaking wet. He was calling my name, and he looked so worried. I was still so scared and was clutching onto his wrist. Then I saw something familiar. The cufflink. Is that Mark? I thought. But when I started to see more clearly, I realized it wasn't Mark. It was Will. He was so relieved to see me awake and alert and gave me the biggest hug. Then he asked Naomi to help me up while he ran to get my coat. Aaliyah still had the audacity to stand there and laugh at me. "Look, everyone, it's Lou, the drowned rat. She's so poor, she has to rely on rich guys to look after her. Pathetic." Naomi was so angry, I thought she was going to hit Aaliyah. She told Aaliyah to shut up and leave me alone. People were pointing at us and saying something. I turned around, and that's when I saw Mark. He was standing in the crowd, looking at me. When he saw I'd seen him, he just turned around and walked away. I have never felt so small in my life. Clearly, our relationship was over. To make it worse, Aaliyah saw Mark leaving and said, "Like father, like daughter. Your mom left your dad, and Mark has left you. Serves you right. Who would want to be with a poor girl?" My heart was completely broken. Was Aaliyah right? Had Mark left me because I was poor now? What did it matter anyway? It was over. But there was something else on my mind. The cufflink. Had I mistaken Mark for Will? Was it Will that had saved me that day? In the background, I could still hear Aaliyah mocking me, but I just blocked it out. Naomi was hugging me, telling me everything was going to be okay, and then Will appeared and put my coat over my shoulders and said, "You don't need to worry about a thing." Then he took my hand, and we left that mess behind us. Hey, Kat here. Again. I hope you're not bored of me yet. As if. Anyway, here's a recap of the last part of my story so far. In the last episode, I confessed my feelings to my crush, Garrett, but he rejected me because I was not girly enough for him. To make it even worse, he said he liked Taylor and wanted me to help them become a couple. I couldn't believe it. I was so furious that I argued with my mom. Then I came to my dad's house, and that's when my dad asked me to help him get back with mom. Apparently, I jumped at the chance and immediately put my healing family relationships plan into action. But suddenly, Max said that he wanted to tell me something important. So, okay, he led me out to the garden. I followed him and kept wondering what he wanted to talk to me about. Did he know I wanted to split him and my mom up, and he was going to scold me for it? No way! As soon as we sat down, I asked him immediately, "What's the matter?" He just smiled. "I wanted to chat with you, so that we could understand each other better." I gave him a doubtful look. Why did he suddenly care about me? Jeez, this was so awkward. Then Max said, "Kat, I know that you want your parents to get back together." He hesitated a bit, then continued, "I don't dare to say that I'm better than your dad, but, you know, we are all from broken families, and I just want to give you, your mom, and Taylor a happy home life. So I hope that you'll accept me and give me a chance." I didn't know how to reply to him. Okay, so I knew that Max truly loved my mom, as he always looked at her affectionately. But what about my dad? He was miserable without mom, and if given the chance, he would definitely make us happy. As for Max, I was sure he'd have no trouble finding someone else. Okay, so I might have said Max was kind, but the reality was he wasn't right for mom, but my dad was. I mean, they had history, and they had me. The wedding day loomed closer, and Mum and Max grew even soppier together. I wanted to cancel the wedding, but it seemed impossible. But then I realized something. Maybe I could somehow delay it? I had thought seriously for a few days. Then I came up with an idea. I would pretend to break my leg. If I couldn't come to the wedding, my mom had to postpone it, right? OMG! I was absolutely a genius. I immediately messaged Harry and told him about my bright idea for my Get Dad Back with Mom plan. Naturally, he replied I was bonkers, but he agreed to help me. He even told me how that could work, as his cousin was a doctor and he would definitely help us. Awesome! However, to make this plan work, first of all, I had to appear helpful so Mom wouldn't suss me out. So I kept asking her about the wedding preparations and said that she could tell me if she needed help. At first, she was quite surprised, but then she looked so happy and satisfied. Maybe Mom thought that her beloved daughter had finally grown up. That day, after school, I put the plan into action. Of course, with the help of Harry's doctor cousin. His cousin was really helpful. After bandaging my leg, he even gave me advice on how to walk, like I had really broken it. Then Harry took me home. When seeing me, my mom was totally terrified. She kept asking us what had happened. Harry lied that during a game of soccer, I tried to steal the ball and fallen awkwardly on my leg. I hadn't wanted to worry them, so he'd taken me to his cousin's clinic. I'd fractured it, and it would take me about 4 weeks to recover. His story was so real that I almost believed it myself. He was absolutely the best comrade in my life. After that, Mom spent more time taking care of me and wasn't as strict as before. Honestly, it was great. However, I really missed practice, and lying on my bed all day wasn't as fun as it sounded. My bedroom was on the 2nd floor, so my mom always brought me food so that I didn't need to go downstairs. One day, after lunch, I was so bored that I decided to go over to my desk to pick up my laptop and play some music. While I was standing and swinging to the rhythm, my mom came in with a plate of fruit in her hand. I was so surprised, but I immediately leaned on the desk and said, She rushed to help me and asked what I was doing. In my most pitiful voice, I said, "Mom, I wanted to practice walking for your big day, but my leg just hurts so much, and I'm not sure I'll be able to cope with the wedding." She stroked my hair and said, "It's okay, honey. Harry will come with you to the wedding and help you out." I leaned on her and sobbed. I can't do it. You see, Taylor will look like a princess, and I'll look like an Egyptian mummy. I wish there was some way the wedding could be delayed for a bit. My voice was smaller, and my eyes filled with false tears. Oh my God, forget soccer. I needed to join the drama club. The next day, she came into my room with Max, and she told me that they had some big news. "We can't contemplate getting married without you there, so we've decided to postpone the wedding until your leg is better." OMG. I'm a genius! But I tried not to look too excited. As soon as they left my room, I messaged Dad and told him the amazing news. Then I told him that I'd given him more time, but he needed to up his game. After that, Dad dropped in all the time, with the excuse that he wanted to check on me. But the problem was that Max was always around, so Dad couldn't have any private time with Mom. Cue the next step of my plan. I told my mom that I wanted to move down to Taylor's bedroom, as her room was on the 1st floor, so I could walk around the house and get some fresh air. She agreed Taylor and I could switch rooms. But I begged again. No way! Taylor stole my crush, and now she's gonna live in my room? It's too much to even think about. Why don't you tell Max and Taylor to move out for a while? At least until my leg's better. Whenever I see Taylor running and dancing around, it bugs me out. She's so insensitive. Mom looked flustered, but she tried to keep calm and persuaded me to exchange the room with Taylor, just until my leg was better. At that point, Max came in. Turns out, he'd overheard our conversation. He turned to her and said, "Mary, I think Taylor and I should go and stay with my parents for a while. Then, when Kat's all healed up, we can come back." Mom's eyes filled up with tears, and I did feel a little bad, but when I saw him kiss her on the top of the head, I just felt annoyed. Mom belonged with Dad, not him. That night, while I was lying on the bed and texting Harry, Taylor stormed in looking furious. I took my eyes off the phone, smirked, and said, "Oh, it's nice of you to take time out of packing to visit me." She yelled at me, "Stop being so selfish and stop this! Because of you, the wedding has been delayed, and now you're kicking us out? Newsflash, this is my home too, Kat. The world doesn't just revolve around you." I stared at her. OMG. Why couldn't she just shut up and leave already? I told her, "You can stay here, but first, you need to break up with Garrett." She was furious and ran out without saying anything. Finally, Max and Taylor moved out. Plus, Harry told me that Taylor had broken up with Garrett. Oh my god, that feeble girl was so docile. Life was pretty awesome, but I couldn't wait to lose that itchy bandage. Dad popped by loads to take care of me. He even brought some cherry cakes and tulips, my mom's favorites for her. I felt like after all these storms, my family were finally reunited. Then, after a whole agonizing month, it was time for the bandage to go. Of course, I couldn't go to the clinic with my mom, so I came up with some excuse that I wanted to eat her clam soup when I got back. It worked, as she called Harry to go with me. When the bandage was removed, I cheered, and Harry laughed at me. "I hope it was worth it, Kat," he said. "It totally was." I winked at him. I arrived home expecting Mom to greet me excitedly, but she wasn't in the kitchen. I heard voices coming from upstairs, so I stealthily put my ear against the door and heard Mom's voice. "We're over, Satya! How can you beg for me back after what you did?" Then I heard Dad reply,
"I'm so sorry. It was all my fault. I should never have forced you to have an abortion just because the baby was a girl. But you know the pressures of having a son in India. Moreover, then there were your complications. You had one chance at having a baby. That's why I thought holding out for a son would be better. But that was the past. I've changed now. I love you and our daughter, and I just want to take care of you both."
"Oh, please. You only support Kat dressing like a boy because you want her to be a boy. Please, stop bothering us and leave us alone." What? Turns out, Dad had never truly supported me. He just wanted to have a son? He was the one who didn't want me to exist in the world. All along, he was the villain, not Mom. I felt disgusted. I slumped in front of the door and couldn't believe what I was hearing. It felt like my whole life had been one big stinking lie. Hey, Bella here, the girl with the huge dreams of becoming a world-class architect. So, thanks to my boyfriend Ed, I got a job at the super prestigious Starcross Estate Company. I then found out that he was the owner's son. Because of this, some of my colleagues took an instant disliking to me. The worst of them all was this girl called Diane, who made snide comments toward me and kept on undermining my work. But then she went too far when she sent me an email telling me to break up with Ed because he loved her, not me, and she had pictures to prove it. I tried to stay calm as I clicked through the pictures she sent me. One was taken on the recent business trip they went on, and was of them sitting next to each other, which obviously didn't prove anything. Another picture was of Diane resting her head on the shoulder of a shirtless man. Okay, so his build was similar to Ed's, but his face wasn't in the picture, so it could have been anyone. There were also images of text messages, allegedly between them both. One message said, "I don't like Bella anymore. I love you, bae." But the fact that Ed used an icon in this message screen capture made me suspect that it was just fake evidence. I knew Ed never uses memes and detests slang. He always types messages out in full sentences with perfect punctuation. As I looked through the images again, I thought that if somebody else sent me this email, I might believe it. But this person was Diane. She showed her jealousy towards my relationship with Ed all the time, so she might do this just to destroy our love. I decided not to let her bother me. So I sent some pictures back to her of Ed and me happy together. Then I prepared to go home. I guessed this made her angry, as the next day she messaged me demanding that I meet her for coffee after work. I tried ignoring her, but geez, she was so persistent. When I blocked her on social media, she bombarded me with messages via her work email. I had to agree to meet her in the end just so I could get some peace. I walked into the cafe to see her drinking a coffee and eating a muffin. She waved me over like we were friends or something, then said, "You are so stubborn. Ed doesn't love you, so break up with him and move on. He likes me, not you." I glared at her. "Oh yeah? So when did this so-called affair start?" She pauses for ages before saying, a month. No, 2 months ago." "Okay. And how do you know he loves you?" There was another long pause before she said, "He tells me all the time. Duh." I told her she was being ridiculous, and she should try finding a real-life boyfriend, not making up stories about mine. As I walked out of there, she shouted after me, "You'll regret this, Bella. Just you wait and see." As crazy as Diane's behavior was, it did get me thinking. There was no smoke without fire, and it was true that Ed had been acting differently around me recently. He barely had lunch with me anymore. He canceled on our date plans due to a work commitment. And then when I made dinner reservations for the two of us, he brought Jim and Ellie along too. Then the business trips became a more regular thing. They were almost every weekend and on random weekdays. Whenever he was away, he never rang me or sent me a message. His excuse was he was busy. But how hard was it to send a text? And the same this time, he was having a long business trip to New York. He went with his team, which included Ellie, and you won't believe, and Diane. Ugh! This made me even more worried. What if Diane wasn't as crazy as I thought? What if Ed really was having an affair with her, and now they had a 1-month trip together? I was very anxious about all of this, but I think I would wait for Ed to come back to meet and ask him directly. It had no solid evidence, and I should believe my boyfriend, right? Anyway, we had a huge project at work. So I tried my best to suppress my worries and focus on my job. Luckily, Jim was always there to offer me advice and help me every time I struggled. Actually, he was a really great guy. And then one time, he totally saved my ass. That day, it was almost home time when my computer suddenly turned itself off and I hadn't saved my drawings. It wouldn't turn back on and I freaked out. There was a full day's unsaved work there. Ugh! How could I be so careless? I was fumbling around underneath my desk trying to fix my computer when Jim appeared and asked me,
"What are you doing down there?"
I don't know what happened, but I've lost everything I've done today on the Ernest project." He said,
"Let me take a look."
Then we spent the next 3 hours trying to fix it. Luckily, Jim turned out to be good with technology, so he managed to restore all of my data. I was so thankful. Then I said, "Thank you so much. You must be hungry now. Would you like to go eat something?" My treat for helping me. He smiled as he said, "Sure." Okay, so it was too late. All the nearby restaurants were shut, so we popped into the convenience store and grabbed some instant noodles, candy bars, and coffees. But it wasn't so bad, actually. Jim smiled and told me,
"This was so fun. It reminds me of my college time."
We both laughed. Then we talked about our hobbies and goals for the future and stuff. The next day, I finally got through to Ed. When talking to him, I still appeared to be fine, but I started to tell him more about my problems and pressures at work, and said that I hoped he would come back soon because it would make me more comfortable. I expected him to reassure me and also say that he wanted to meet me too, but no. He told me that lately he was very busy with many projects and I should just ask Jim for work-related help, as he was my boss. Jim was also a close friend he trusted very much and could take care of me when he was not around. I was super disappointed with Ed's answer, so I said, "Yep, Jim might be nice to me, but he's my boss, not my boyfriend. He didn't have any responsibility for staying by my side and protecting me like what I need from you. You've changed, Ed. You don't want to be with me anymore, do you?"
Bella, stop overthinking. I'm on a work trip. I'm busy. That's all.
I was so mad, and I hung up and I refused to return his apology message. Then, for the rest of the week, I put all my focus into work and tried to block all things Ed-related out of my mind, but it was hard. I missed him like crazy. Then the weekend arrived, and I was relaxing with a book when I heard my doorbell. A part of me was hoping it would be Ed, only when I opened the door, I saw Jim standing there. He said,
"Hi, Bella. Sorry for just showing up. Ed asked me to take you out. I think he's afraid you're in stress overload with work or something."
On hearing this, I didn't know whether I should feel happy or sad. So Ed did care about me, didn't he? But then, why wasn't it him at my door, not Jim? So I said, "Thank you. That's really nice, but I'm not really in the mood." He replied,
"It's no bother. In fact, I know just the place to make you feel better. You may even get some inspiration for our project."
To be honest, I was kinda curious. And if it was work-related, then it would be dumb to miss out, right? To my complete surprise, he took me to the new Museum of Architecture. There were so many amazing models on display, and Jim was a great tour guide. He even led me into a room displaying a 3D model of a city hanging in the air. OMG! It was incredible! I hadn't smiled so much in a long time. Being around Jim was great, but he didn't make me feel like I wasn't good enough or make out I was overthinking things. Instead, I could relax and just be me. Afterward, we went to a wine bar and he bought me a cocktail and we sat down in this cozy booth. He smiled at me and asked,
"How do you feel now?"
I replied, "Much better. Thanks. And thank you for persuading me to go out. I've wanted to go to that museum for ages, but it seems Ed's always too busy to take me. Anyway, thank you. I had a great time." We started on the shots, and it wasn't long before I began to feel tipsy. The problem was that the more I drank, the more emotional I felt, and before I could stop myself, I ended up pouring my heart out to Jim. You know what? Recently, I'm not fine at all. I'm stressed at work, I'm stressed with all this Diane drama, and now even Ed is stressing me out. He raised an eyebrow.
"Ed? Really? Why are you worried about him?"
I replied, "Diane keeps telling me she's having an affair with him. She even sent some photos, but they didn't seem very legit. But these days, Ed is so different. He's so cold and flat towards me. He couldn't even be bothered to come and see me. He sent you instead. No offense." Jim sympathetically looked at me and sighed. He didn't say anything. Then, because I'd drunk too much, I didn't think before I asked him, "If Ed really betrayed me, then would you be on his side or mine?" There was an awkward pause, so I laughed it off. "Ignore me. I know you're Ed's friend, so of course you'll be on his side, right?" But then, to my surprise, Jim answered, Hey, it's Bella, and I'm back with the final part of my story. Last time, I found out the shocking truth about Ed. Turns out, he never loved me. No, instead, he was in love with his half-sister, Ellie, who isn't actually his biological sister at all. It was so much information to process already. But to make it even worse, Ed's mom messaged him, insisting all three of us go to her house right away. As soon as I entered Stafford's lavish home, I felt so nervous. Ed spoke out.
Mom, Dad, what's wrong?
Mrs. Stafford gave him a stern look and replied, "You need to explain this right now." Then she showed the same picture of Ed and Ellie that John had sent me. Before anyone had a chance to reply, she looked at me. "You're Ed's girlfriend? Did you know about this?" I was confused, then said, I only found out today." She was furious and yelled at Ed and Ellie. "What is this? You two are crazy? How could you do such incestuous things?" She didn't let Ed and Ellie explain, then continued. "Did it cross your minds what would happen if other people saw this picture? I'm so ashamed of both of you." Ed stood up and replied,
"But, Mom, we don't share the same bloodline. Why can't I love Ellie?"
His mom looked so confused. So Ellie looked at her with tear-filled eyes and said, "It's true. Dad's, well, he's not my biological dad. It was my mom's idea. She just wanted me to have a secure future. I never wanted to deceive anyone, and I honestly do care about you all, and I'm so sorry." Mrs. Stafford shouted, "What did you say? You aren't my husband's biological child? You don't have any blood relationships with us whatsoever? In that case, why do you dare live here in our house? And now you're using my son so you can get your hands on his fortunes?" Ed replied,
"Mom, don't say that. Ellie is not that kind of girl. I love her, and I know she loves me too."
Mr. Stafford, who'd been sitting there silently, suddenly spoke up.
"I know. I've always known. I took a DNA test years ago, but I decided to keep this secret and continue to raise Ellie because I love her as my own."
He looked at her.
"You've always been my little docile daughter, and I'm always proud of you, Ellie."
Ellie burst into tears. Ed hugged her and comforted her. Mrs. Stafford was so angry, and she said, "You all knew the truth, but chose to leave me in the dark. I demand she leaves this house right now, else I will." Then she stormed out of the room. The atmosphere was frosty, and I seriously wanted to get out of there. Mr. Stafford apologized to me for being dragged into all this drama. I felt super awkward, so I made out that it was getting late and left. This whole thing was such a mess, but I had my own issues to deal with. Their problems weren't anything to do with me anymore. I was finally free of Ed once and for all, and it was such a relief. A week passed, and even though I'd sent Jim dozens of messages, he hadn't replied to any of them. I was pretty sure he'd changed his number. This sucked, so I decided to meet John to explain myself to him and to see if he had Jim's contact details. I met him in a bar, and after a few drinks, I asked him, "You sent the mail to Mr. and Mrs. Stafford, right? Why did you do it?" John smiled and replied, "Because I hated Ed. He stole my Ellie and also made Jim misunderstand you. What a jerk." I replied, "For what it's worth, I really do think Ed and Ellie love each other. Besides, Ellie isn't right for you. You'll find someone amazing, John. You just wait." After that, I told John everything that had happened and admitted my love for Jim. To my surprise, John smiled and told me that he already knew everything, as one time, when he was going to surprise Ellie with a cake, he overheard Ed telling her how he was paying for my dad's medical bills in exchange for me pretending to be his girlfriend. Then he hugged Ellie and kissed her on the top of the head. After that, John had doubts about their relationship, so he followed them and took some pictures. After discovering the truth, John met Jim to tell him everything, but Jim just looked sad. Then John said,
I've thought about this a lot, and I think the real reason Jim was so disappointed was because when you ran into difficulties, you went to Ed for help instead of him.
It hadn't even crossed my mind how bad it must have looked. All I could think about was my dad and how I needed to help him, which is why I jumped on Ed's offer of financial help. In hindsight, I should have discussed it with Jim first. I told John how much I missed Jim and wanted to see him. He said he'd try to help, but he didn't know where Jim was either, and that knowing his brother, he probably just needed some time to process everything. A whole month passed by, and I hadn't heard a word from Jim. Every morning when I saw John at work, I hoped today would be the day he had good news for me, but it never happened. Jim definitely seemed to be a man who didn't want to be found. At least, not by me. I missed him like crazy and just wanted to hug him tight so that he couldn't disappear. Everyone in the company now knew the truth about Ed and Ellie. At first, they were shocked and talked about nothing else. But now, no one seemed that bothered. For me, I wasn't angry with them anymore. Life was too short for that. Anyway, Ed insisted on still paying my dad's medical bills, which I was very thankful for. One day, Ed and Ellie suddenly texted that they wanted to meet me. I was kind of curious, so I met them at a cafe near our company. I walked in to see both of them looked so happy together. It seemed like things got better for them. Am I interrupting this lovely moment? I joked and sat down next to Ellie. She blushed, and I'd never seen her so happy before. Ed told me that his parents seemed to accept their relationship. Even Mrs. Stafford was beginning to mellow down, and she hadn't kicked Ellie out. Then Ellie said, "We wanted to make amends for everything we put you through, so we found Jim for you." Then she pulled out an envelope from her bag and said it was Jim's address and a letter of recommendation if I wanted to apply to the company where Jim was working. Was it real? I couldn't believe it. Finally, I'd found him! There was no more time to waste, so I packed my bag and hopped on a plane. Even though it was dark when I landed, I went straight to the address Ellie had given me. When I was walking in the courtyard of the building with my suitcase, then suddenly, I saw someone. OMG. It was Jim! I couldn't believe it. I dropped the suitcase and ran to hug him. At first, Jim looked shocked and tried to push me away, but then he hugged me back. Jim drove me to a riverside near his apartment. We sat silently, drank beer, and looked at the lights sparkling from the buildings. I asked him, "This place is great, huh? Do you come here a lot?" He stayed silent for a while, and then replied, "One time, I found it when I was jogging. Sitting here with some cans of beer is awesome, so I often come here when I feel tired and miss you." What he said had crushed my heart. I turned to look at him. He'd lost some weight and looked sad. I told him the truth about what had happened and said, "I'm so sorry. At that time, all I could think about was saving my dad. So when Ed called me and said he would help me, I didn't think twice. And I also thought that the deal would end soon, and I just wanted to hide it all. It's all my fault for not thinking about your feelings, but you also left me without saying anything. Even your own brother doesn't know where you are." Jim spoke out. "I didn't tell John, as I knew he'd tell you, and I needed to be alone. When you ran into difficulties, you didn't need me. You just..." Without letting him finish his sentence, I cried out, "You didn't even give me a chance to explain! You just left me! I miss you like crazy!" Jim rushed to hug me, wiped my tears, and comforted me. "I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have left like that. I really miss you too." We kissed, and I still wondered if this was just a dream. Finally, I'd found him, and I definitely wasn't losing him again. When we finished kissing, I looked up and saw a shooting star. OMG. It was such an amazing end to the perfect day, and I took it as a sign that we were meant to be together forever. That was it. After that, I got a job at the company where Jim was working and officially moved into his apartment. Oh, And we're getting married next month. And I can't wait. If in doubt, then you should follow the wise words my granny once told me. There are only a few good people left out there. So when you find the right person, you've got to fight for them. It might not feel like the right time, but ask yourself this: when is? Don't let the past ruin your future. So basically, you should always follow your heart and not let what's meant to be pass you by.
Hi, my name is Cammy, short for Camille, the same girl as the girl out of the TV series The Originals, and I'm 17. A few years ago, I started feeling super insecure about my appearance, and it led me to make a pretty big decision, which almost made me lose the cutest boyfriend ever. So, my two besties, Amy and Lizzie, they are so beautiful. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I'm ugly or anything, but they both have one thing that I don't have: womanly curves. Standing next to them made me feel as flat as a plank, and due to their curves, boys always notice them over me. Worse still, they even got wolf whistles and compliments from the boys, while all I received was lame jokes about my body. Talk about annoying! Hearing remarks such as, "Geez, Cammy, you're so flat. I could use you as a surfboard." Or, "Cammy, I think you should go back to kindergarten and grow a bit." Well, these words stung. I tried laughing it off, but on the inside, I was hurting so much. Things got even worse when Amy and Lizzie both got super cute boyfriends, but no boys were interested in me. Not only this, but my parents also getting divorced, so at this point I felt like I had nothing left. So I decided that I had to do something. During the summer vacation, I bought some bras and started stuffing them. At first, it kind of felt uncomfortable and inconvenient because the stuffing made me hot and even hard to breathe since it was summer after all, but I eventually got used to it. Then, I tried posting some photos of me in cute tops on my social media pages. The comments were all compliments from my lovely people. They said I looked so pretty in my new appearance. So, throughout the summer, I gradually began to stuff my bras a little bit more, so it looked like my chest was naturally getting bigger. Then, the first day of school arrived. It was still pretty hot outside, so I decided to wear a cute top to show off my new curves. When I arrived at school, Lizzie and Amy both hugged me and told me I looked great. Although they also added in that I always had. My friends were the best. Then something crazy happened. This one boy who used to tease me came over and said, "Oh wow, surfboard girl. I mean, Cammy, you're looking hot." I smirked at him, then walked away. For the next year, I carried on stuffing my bras. Talk about a hassle, but it paid off as I finally felt accepted. No one teased me anymore, and I didn't feel self-conscious standing next to my gorgeous besties. It wasn't all a breeze, as one day after school it was so hot that as soon as I reached my bedroom, I immediately took the paddings off and threw them on my bed. Talk about comfortable! I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, my mom was standing there holding my bras in one hand and the padding in the other. "Cammy, what's going on?" she asked. I turned as red as a lobster and then replied, "I just feel more confident in the padding in. That's all. It's no big deal." Then snatched the bra back from her hand. Mom let out a sigh. "Sweetie, I know it's perfectly normal to feel insecure about your body at your age. It's up to you what you do, but I just want you to know that you're perfect just as you are." This meant so much to me, so I ran over to my mom and I gave her a big hug. Although I know that my mom was right, I just still felt more confident with my padding. Then the next summer arrived, and I and my family went on a trip of a lifetime to this luxury resort in Africa. Even though my parents were divorced, they still got on great as friends, so we all went together. Okay, so stuffing a bikini top wasn't as easy as a bra, so I spent my allowance on a couple of padded bikini tops so I'd feel confident lounging by the pool. A few days into my vacation, and I met this boy called Liam on the beach. OMG, he was so good looking. And my padding gave me the confidence to catch his eye, and soon he came over and started chatting to me. Turns out that as well as being hot, he was also very sweet. He told me that he'd been born in Africa and his aunt owned this resort, and now his family stays there every summer. I also found out we're from the same country. awesome. And so we started dating. We would sit outside and watch the sunset, horse ride on the beach, and go for picnics. I had the best summer ever with him. When we came back home, we kept on dating, but it was a little harder since he lived in another city. And then there was my other problem. He didn't know I padded my bras. Although we were taking things slowly, I knew he wanted to take things further. He never pressured me or anything, but I started to feel anxious during our makeout sessions. I got so down about it all. How could I possibly have a decent relationship when I was hiding the secret? I didn't know what to do anymore, and I thought my only options were to tell the truth or break up with him. Liam made me so happy, but I guess he wanted someone with curves, not some shapeless girl who was trying to be something she wasn't. That weekend, Liam would come to visit me, and I knew what I needed to do. But then something happened which took the decision out of my hands. That day, I was laying on my bed when Liam suddenly barged in. OMG! As soon as I saw him, I immediately covered my breast, but it's too late. Of course I wasn't wearing my padding, so he saw me. The real me. He looked so shocked, then ran out of the room. I didn't even try to run after him or explain because I knew it was too late. It turned out my mom had allowed him to come into my house as he said he wanted to surprise me. That night, he texted me and said that he didn't want to be with me anymore. Not because of my padding, but because I'd lied to him. He said he couldn't be in a relationship based on lies. To my surprise, he even said he thought I looked just as pretty as always, and it was my laugh, my eyes, and sweet nature that first attracted him to me. I instantly regretted lying to him. Turns out that with a padded bikini top or not, he would have approached me in the resort anyway, and we would have still been in a relationship. Now it was too late. I'd lost him for good. I knew I needed to make a change, so I ditched the padding and decided to be proud of my body. I also posted pictures of me in tops without the padding on my social media, with the caption, "Proud of who I am." The first day back to school was nerve-wracking, but luckily for me, I had Amy and Lizzie by my side. The other kids were pointing and whispering over at me, but my friends shot them dirty looks and said to them, "What are you looking at?" Then to my surprise, I was applying lip gloss in the toilets when this one girl came over to me and said, "You look amazing. I wish I was as confident as you." Yeah, so some of the boys started teasing me again, but you know what? I honestly didn't care. I only had Liam on my mind, so what they said didn't matter to me at all anymore. One of them even had awful acne, and the other had greasy hair, but I had better things to do than to make unnecessary marks about this to them. So, whatever, I was over it. Now, my story isn't finished yet, as one day after school, I arrived home to find Liam standing at my doorstep with packets of Nerds, which is the candy we were eating on the day we became an official couple. I was so surprised to see him there. He passed them to me and said, "Cammy, I'm sorry for my initial reaction to you. I knew it was wrong of me not to think about your feelings. I should have placed myself in your shoes to understand the reason why you did that. I'm so sorry. I have the most fun when I'm with you, and not having you around, well, I suppose you can say I've missed you loads. Could you please forgive me?" I couldn't stop smiling as I replied, "Yes, I've missed you loads too." I ran into his arms and we'd been together ever since. Naturally, Amy was a bit skeptical at first, as she'd seen how upset I was when he ended it the first time. But once she met him, she realized how perfect we are together. Oh, and there's one more thing. Now I'm 17 and my body has changed, and guess what? I now have an hourglass figure. I guess I was just a slow bloomer, but I got there in the end. So, the moral of my story is that everybody is great just the way they are. Yes, I know you've probably heard this 1,000 times, but just try it. Stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself what makes you unique. Try to love who you are and don't be afraid to show it. Oh, and never forget that confidence is sexy. I did this and it worked. My life became the life I dreamed of. Also, be patient. Don't rush yourself and your body into something it isn't ready for, as trust me, this doesn't work. Everything comes in good time, and there's always a reason for that. I now realize that I had to learn to love my body first, and then step by step, my life fell into place.
Hey, my name is Erin, and as you can see, I'm just your normal 18-year-old college girl. But my friends who know me well know that I'm not a girly girl. If given the choice of a shopping trip or beer pong, well, then there's no contest. All through high school, I was known as the prank queen. One time, this girl teased me about my sneakers, so I put a real-life spider in her lunchbox. She totally freaked out. It was so funny. Another time, my teacher gave me a totally unjust C on my essay, so when she wasn't looking, I placed her coffee mug upside down. As soon as she picked up the mug, coffee spilled all over the table and her clothes. I ended up with a week's worth of detention for that, but it was so worth it. So, yeah, even though I was out of high school now, my mischievous nature wasn't going anywhere. I didn't even feel like I needed to change or be more mature because my life was still going perfect. I always had my longtime boyfriend Zach and my bestie Jace on my side. We went to the same college together. Me and Jace even moved out to live independently. Trust me, college life was worth 12 years of waiting. I'm a sociable and active girl, while Zach is pretty handsome and great at sports, so we soon became a popular and beloved couple at college. We were even given prom king and prom queen crowns for freshmen. I could see people admired us any time we were together. It was like our love was a typical relationship that they always wished for. Only I knew that deep down inside, Zach's feelings for me were changing. We seemed to argue all the time, and at the root of it was the fact that I wasn't gentle like most other girls. Ugh. He used to see me as the most interesting and attractive girl in the world. What happened? Once, he took me to a party to celebrate his basketball team's win. We cheered a lot, and at a point I was so excited that I jumped on the table and drank wine with the boys. Everyone around was cheering with joy, but Zach wasn't happy. Then later, when I was getting in his car ready for him to drive me home, I asked him, "What's wrong? Aren't you happy you won?" He replied,
"You're an embarrassment. No one else's girlfriend was down in wine and cheering at the top of their voice. Why can't you just be gentle, like your friend Jace?"
I was fuming. So fuming, in fact, that I got out of his car, slammed the door shut, and walked home. It was such an outrage comparing me with another girl. Not to mention that Jace is the complete opposite of me. She's super quiet and introverted. You know what they say, opposites attract. This is so true, as Jace and I are the best of friends. But there's no way I could be gentle like her. If he wanted me to be more like her, why didn't he consider himself to be as sweet and smart as her boyfriend, Jay? I arrived home to find Jace sitting in tears on her bed. Oh, my gentle, weak girl. That night must be Black Friday for both of us. So I hugged her and asked her what was wrong. She replied, "Jace changed, Erin. He doesn't like my meekness and wants a more vibrant relationship. In fact, he wants me to be more like you. He said I should be active and strong like you are. Now I don't know what to do." I said, "Oh, God, boys are so confusing." You know what? Zach said the same thing to me. He wants me to be gentle like you. Jace looked at me with surprising eyes. Really? He did? I know, so hilarious, right? We have to do something to make them realize our true value. But what can we do? And once again, my prank-minded brain came up with an extraordinary idea. And I told her, "I know, Jace. We can swap boyfriends." "No, Erin, I don't like Zach. And from when you have eyes for Jay?" Hey, don't get it wrong. I just want my Zach. So here's the plan. We will annoy our boyfriends so they won't want to hang out with us for a few days. Then we'll take this time to strike and flirt with each other's boyfriends. Then, just when they thought they're getting close to us, we'll be super annoying. Then they'll realize just how amazing their actual girlfriends are. Talk about an amazing plan, huh? I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Jace was hesitant at first, but she eventually came up with my prank. As usual, our boys would soon come back as their old selves. I put my part of the plan into action by asking Zach over to watch the new episode of his favorite show on Netflix. Then, during the show, I ate popcorn really loudly. then continued to make comments and laugh while he was trying to concentrate. Eventually, he snapped and said,
"Are you crazy? I'm trying to watch this."
I replied, "What? You can't stand me anymore or something?" We argued a little bit. Then he said,
"You know what? You're annoying. Why can't you be nice, delicate, and gentle for just a moment?"
Then he stormed out of the room and left. I immediately texted Jace. Mission completed. As for Jace, she went out with Jay. But whenever he asked her what she wanted to do or eat, etc., she replied, "Whatever," to everything. It soon drove him crazy because he didn't know what to do to please her. That was classic. When Jace kept shaking her head when he gave her options for what to eat, he got furious and drove her straight home. OMG, I couldn't stop laughing. So the first step was successful. Next, we needed to approach each other's boyfriends. A couple of days later, I found an excuse to meet Jay. He was a computer genius, so I messaged him on Facebook. "Hi Jay, you know a lot about computers, right? Can you help me, as my laptop won't connect to the Wi-Fi and I have an assignment due?" Then he replied,
Sure. Just take a picture of it and send it over."
So I replied, "Can I bring it to your place? You gotta help me. I don't know what to do." Well then, of course, he said yes. So I wore a cute outfit and went over there. I kept touching his arm and praising him. Then, when he became more open to me, I started to tell him how lonely and empty I was as Zach and I were over.
"Oh yeah? How come?"
He raised an eyebrow. I sighed out. He thinks I'm too loud and boisterous. I tried to fake my tears. "Am I annoying, Jay?" He was surprised.
"No, you're not. You're an active, outgoing, and interesting girl. Don't let his judgment bother you."
Ha! So my tears worked. So I just pretended to cry harder. He frantically said he knew how to cheer me up. Then he took me to the amusement park. I laughed loudly in the middle of the roller coaster queue, let my ice cream smudge my face, and intentionally didn't wipe it clean. Then I demanded he win me a teddy on the beanbag throwing stall game. But every time he threw the beanbag, I shouted out and clung onto his arm. I knew boys hate being stuck and nagging all day. Like, really, really hate it. Soon, he would realize how awesome Jace was. Talking about Jace, she came to find Zach at the gym, but pretended like it was just a chance meeting. She asked him to show her how a treadmill worked, then used the same way as mine for Zach to ask her out. They went to the cinema to cheer her up. She refused to see the action film he was longing to see, as it was too noisy, said no to any movie he suggested, then eventually ended up in a chick flick. But right at the climax of the film, she complained it was too dark and crowded in there, and made him leave early. How ridiculous! LOL. He must be so annoyed. Then I told her to hit Zach where it hurt, his basketball match. Jace convinced him to take her along to his game, but she just sat there scrolling through her phone instead of watching the match. She didn't cheer him when he won a point, and immediately after the game finished, she asked him to take her home, causing him to miss the post-game gathering. Good work, Jace. He'd come running back to me in no time. I know you're probably thinking this plan was crazy, but it really worked. Jace showed up on our doorstep with flowers for Jace. Their love story had been given the refreshment it needed. Now, I just had to wait for Zach to realize what he's been missing. Only, to my horror, Zach wasn't messaging me. He was still messaging Jace. She ended up sending a picture of her with Jay and told him she was happy with her boyfriend and didn't have time for annoying people like him. Then, the next day, Jace arrived home all flustered. She told me that Zach had been waiting for her outside of her class, then told her he wanted a chance to take her on a date. What? He was technically still my boyfriend. How could he do this to me? Worse still, he was ignoring all of my messages. So I showed up at his house and wouldn't budge until he answered the door. He looked sheepish as he said,
"Aaron, our relationship hit a dead end. You're acting ridiculous, and I know you hung out with another guy behind my back." Meanwhile, A wonderful girl came to see me play basketball instead of you. She's the girl for me, not you.
At this point, I had to say the truth. Zach, you don't know what you're talking about right now. Listen, it was all just a setup so you could see what you were missing. It's worked for Jace. Her relationship is stronger than ever. And to my surprise, he replied,
I know. I overheard you discussing it with Jace in the library. At first, I found you so cute because you were trying to save our love, and I just wanted to please you, so I pretended not to know. But then, I realized something. I don't love you anymore. Instead, I love Jace. And thinking about it, I guess I have for a while. She's like a little, arrogant cat that I want to pamper and take care of. You know, I've always liked cats.
What? She's not even arrogant. She only acted that way as part of the plan, I shouted.
I don't care. All I know is I love her, not you.
Ugh! I can't believe it. What have I done? Because of my stupid prank, I've lost my boyfriend to my best friend. What am I meant to do now? Hey, it's me, Haley, back again. So, in the last part of my story, my club leader, Miss Anderson, made me audition for my lead part. And all because this new girl, Anna, couldn't accept the rules. I wasn't that worried about it. I mean, the part was already mine, right? Only when I showed up for the audition, Miss Anderson suddenly went crazy at me, then gave my part to Anna. I didn't understand. How could Miss Anderson just give away my part? I hadn't even had a chance to sing yet. I stood there confused when one of the other newbies came over to me and said, "Why are you so late? Miss Anderson's mad at you. She's been waiting for you for over an hour." I checked the clock. No, I wasn't late. I always showed up to auditions early. Always. I ran after Miss Anderson to try and explain, but she wouldn't let me talk.
Haley, I'm so disappointed in you. You're undisciplined and irresponsible, and I don't want to hear your excuses. You're meant to be a role model for the new members. Has the celebrity disease already gotten to you? You won't be able to go very far with this attitude, young lady. And I can't believe Anna was right about you, she mumbled out, then walked away. I was so stunned, so I remained standing there like a statue. It would have helped if I knew what was going on. The audition was at 10:30. I was sure of it. Then Kurt walked by. I was hoping he would explain to me what was going on, but instead he just said, "That's what you get for hanging out with boys, instead of focusing on your career. Anna deserves that part instead of you." My heart sank. How could my best friend say such a horrible thing, and without even taking the time to hear me out? Feeling disheartened, I flopped down on the nearest bench. Tears were about to flow out of my eyes, when Eric appeared out of nowhere and said, "Haley, I've been looking for you everywhere. You didn't even answer my phone. You've missed the audition, right?" I wiped away my tears. "Yeah, I don't understand. Has today's audition been rescheduled or something? No one told me a thing. Oh, and my phone. I must have left it in my locker yesterday. I've checked the GPS. It's still at school." Eric raised his eyebrow. "Wait, you don't have your phone? And you didn't know that the match was changed to 9 a.m.? I heard Anna tell Miss Anderson that you asked for it because you would be busy at 10:30, wasn't it? Miss Anderson was already pretty unimpressed that you didn't even tell that yourself to her." I gave him a confused look and replied, "What? No? Who said that? I'm not busy. Even if I was, I would never get someone else to tell Miss Anderson for me." Eric then grabbed my wrist and said, "Come with me." We went back to the room where the match was supposed to be held, and Anna was still there, laughing with her friends. Eric told them to leave, as we needed to have a private talk with Anna. She looked surprised at Eric's attitude, but she told her friends to go. Then Eric looked at her and said, "I know what you did. Now, are you going to tell the truth, or wait for me to expose it?" Smirking, she just shrugged and said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." That's strange, because the rescheduling was your idea, and it turns out Haley wasn't busy at all. Also, her phone's disappeared. Now, you wouldn't know anything about that. Would you? I mean, I did hear you yesterday talking to your friends about hiding someone's phone. I thought you were playing a prank on someone in class, but now it all makes sense.
Anna went quiet and glued her eyes to the floor as I kept staring at her, waiting for an answer.
So?
Eric's patience was running out. Anna let out a sigh, then rolled her eyes. Fine. It was me. I just wanted the part, okay? I'm far more talented than Haley is. I was fuming. How could she be so vicious? Surely, gaining a part fairly was far more rewarding than gaining it like this. I tried to keep calm as I turned to Eric and whispered, "Thanks for all your help, Eric, but I think Anna and I need to have a little chat." Eric nodded. Then he told me he'd be waiting outside. I said, "Why, Anna? Isn't a fair chance all you wanted? Why do you keep coming at me?" At first, she didn't say anything. She just fiddled with her bracelet. But then she replied, It's because you're always in the spotlight, and all Kurt sees is you. I joined Swing Club just because of Kurt, but it's so frustrating to see you with him. Why do you have to get everything, both Kurt and the lead role?" "Kurt? No, there's nothing between us, Anna. Seriously, nothing. We've been best friends since, forever. That's all." Anna sighed. "Okay, you caught me out. Now just let me leave already." I watched her go, as it wasn't like we had anything else to talk about. After that, Anna didn't bother me anymore. I guess she thought she'd be in enough trouble when I told Miss Anderson the truth. Only, I never did. I mean, I thought about it, but my anger faded out, so I decided to give her this one. There was no denying she was an ambitious girl like me, just that her action was led by the wrong drive. I'd let it slide this time, and this time only. Eric didn't understand it at all. He kept telling me it was my part, and I should go and get it back. But the truth was, it didn't feel like my part anymore. I told him that I'd already figured out how to let it go, and move my focus onto the next thing. The day of the show arrived, and I was in the dressing room sorting out costumes when Anna came over to me and said, "Why didn't you tell Mrs. Anderson what I did?" I replied, "I thought about it, but then I decided not to. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't cool of you to do what you did, but I hope you've learned your lesson. I'll let you have this one." She looked touched and thanked me. We smiled at each other and agreed to restart fresh and leave all problems behind. And next time, we would compete friendly and fairly with our real capability. After that, we became friends. We started hanging out, Eric too, and on occasions, Kurt. I always tried to drag him along with us. I think he and Anna would make the cutest couple, but he always seems like he has something on his mind. Anyway, the concert for Swing Club's anniversary was around the corner, and we all knew this was the biggest show of the year. Everyone would be there, including professionals. The newbies had been there over 3 months, so all could try out for the lead roles. Everyone wanted the opening or closing solos. I tried out for the closing solo spot, and naturally, so did Anna. Only this time, we practiced together and competed fairly. Eric and I even prepared a duet. The other kids kept telling us our voices complemented each other. Turns out, they were right. Plus, I liked singing with Eric, as it also meant I had an excuse to hang out with him even more than normal. After practice, we'd go and grab a burger, go to the park, or go and watch a movie. Being around him made me smile so much my face ached. But I don't know. We were just friends, right? So, the parts for the concert were chosen via a casting day, where everyone in the club got to vote for their favorites. A massive crowd formed outside of the notice board and waited in anticipation for Miss Anderson to pin the results up. I pushed through the crowd and read the results. OMG! I did it! I had the closing solo, and I also secured the duet with Eric, who also won the opening solo, which I was super stoked about, as he really deserved it. Anna was a bit disappointed, of course, but she seemed genuinely happy for me, as she still got in with a duet and another group performance. She ran over and hugged both Eric and me in celebration. Then suddenly, Kurt violently grabbed his backpack, which caused Eric's to fall to the ground. Then he just walked over it and stormed off. What's with him? That's so not okay. I ran after him and demanded to know what his problem was. Kurt, what's wrong with you? I know that you're very sad for not getting the spot. I'm so sorry. But could you at least not be so rude? Especially in front of the whole club. He turned around and yelled at me.
Yeah, so what? Easy for you to say. You get what you want, don't you?
That's not what I meant, but come on. It's fair play. Everyone voted. You couldn't blame...
Oh, right. Now thinking about it, I bet you voted for your Prince Eric, not me. It's not like I can ever compete against him, is it, Haley?
I just shook my head and walked off. This was so absurd. Since when did he become so childish and headstrong? Who was he to yell at me? I hadn't even done anything. I walked back to the board, and everyone was talking about going out for dinner to celebrate. But I wasn't in the mood, so I made an excuse and left first. Eric must have noticed that and offered to drive me home. In the car, I told him I was sorry for Kurt's behavior earlier. Eric was all cool and comforted me, trying to calm me down, and talked about stuff so I could forget about it. Then he took me to an old outdoor stage in the park. We sat there on the hood of his car, and he told me about how seeing a street artist right on this stage when he was little had inspired him to be who he is today. Every time he felt doubtful about his dream or nervous before a show, he'd come here to find peace of mind. He's right. This place is so nice. With the cool breeze and a beautiful view, I felt so at ease already. I wasn't sure if that was because of this magical place, or it's just because I was with Eric. Strange to admit, but I always felt so comfortable around him. We could chit-chat about anything on Earth from dawn till dusk. Then suddenly, there was an awkward silence. He called my name, but his head was turning away.
Haley?
Hey, Haley here. So, in the last episode, my boyfriend Eric was spotted by a record representative, Will, from LA. At first, I'm ashamed to say I was so jealous of his success, but then he told me that he had turned the offer down. At first, I was so surprised by his decision, but then I felt guilty, as I was part of the reason that made him decide to give up on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So I rectified this by racing to the airport and persuading Will to give him another chance. And luckily, he agreed. But Eric only had 5 days to prepare. Then he had to come to LA. So we decided to make the last 5 days together memorable. On the last day before Eric was off, we went together to the giant wheel, and Eric promised me that he would be back and help me achieve my dream to become a professional singer. Now, Eric's leaving today. I went with Eric and his family to the airport. I couldn't stop crying as I hugged him goodbye. He said,
"I'll see you soon, Haley."
Then he kissed me on my forehead. This only made me cry even more, and his mom comforted me in her arms. So that was it. Eric was going to LA to be a star, and I was staying here and focusing on Swing Club. We can make this long-distance thing work, right? Luckily, I had Anna around. We grew really close and hung out all the time. Crazy, huh? When she wasn't acting all jealous, she was the sweetest girl. Kurt also hung out with us sometimes, but I was still mad at him. He'd never actually apologized to me for the way he spoke to me. He just joined our lunch table one day and acted like everything was fine. As good as it is to have Kurt as a friend again, he's been acting weird. Sometimes he brought me coffee and put it on my desk with all these notes stuck on it, like, a special drink for a special girl, K. I always tried to remove the notes before Anna noticed them, as I didn't want her to get the wrong idea again. As for Eric, I understand he's a busy guy, but he barely ever answered his phone. It was so frustrating. I just wanted to hear his voice. The only way I could see and hear him was through his song cover videos that his agency uploaded on YouTube. One day, after Swing Club, I stayed behind. I was sitting at the piano and scrolling through some old pics of Eric and me when I realized Kurt was standing behind me. He was just staring at me. It was kinda weird. I said, "Oh, hi Kurt, I didn't realize you were there." He replied,
"Haley, he left you here so he could chase his dreams. Now, he doesn't even call you. That's so selfish. You should be with someone who stays by your side. Someone like me."
I stuttered. Kurt, He cut me off and continued.
I will never leave you like he did.
And then he held my hand and looked deep into my eyes. Oh my God! I was shocked. Why me? Didn't he know that Anna liked him? So I pulled back my hand and told him that I was still with Eric, and I hoped he respected that. He told me to think about it, then give him an answer after we finished filming the upcoming music video. Oh, yes. Our club was going to film a music video for a song cover, and the leading actors were Kurt and me. There was one scene where Kurt was supposed to kiss my cheek. Of course, I didn't agree. The last thing I wanted was for Eric as well as Anna to misunderstand us when they saw that, so I asked the director to change it to hugging. The day of the video arrived, and it was such a buzz. I loved my outfit, and I was having so much fun. But then, that scene arrived, and when I went to hug Kurt, but he lunged forward and kissed me. On my lips! Oh my God! How could he? I was mad at him, but I couldn't make a scene just because of a kiss. It would affect the film crew, and it would be so unprofessional. So I just went through it. I took a glance at Anna, and I could see how disappointed she was. Then she immediately left the set. While I felt very uncomfortable, the director was so pleased that Kurt was going off script. He said it made the music video more interesting. But I was so mad. He not only forced me to kiss him, but also made Anna misunderstand me. After the music video, I texted Anna to meet me at a cafe near the school. She showed up looking so sad, and I felt dreadful. I bought her a latte and a blueberry muffin, her favorites. Then I explained to her how Kurt had gone off script without discussing it with me first. Anna suddenly turned to the windows, looked into the distance, and replied with a sad tone, "That sucks. But I believe you. I've seen the way he looks at you. Anna, you need to tell him how you feel." "Maybe," she sighed. "I don't know." I was relieved that Anna and I were still friends, but I was still furious with Kurt. How dare he do that to me? It wasn't right. Besides, he knew I was still with Eric. So the next day after the club, I went up to Kurt and told him we needed to talk. "Kurt, I don't have feelings for you. You are my best friend. Please don't destroy our friendship." Kurt got angry and yelled,
"But I don't want to be just your friend. I want to be more than that. Please, Haley, just give me a chance. I will show you that I'm much better than Eric."
I replied, "Please, stop it. I love Eric. I will never be with you. Anna likes you. You should be with her." This made him even madder, and he shouted,
"What are you doing? You hate me so much that you have to push me away to another girl? Unbelievable!"
And then he stormed off. Oh my God, why was he so stubborn? Why wouldn't he listen to me? And now he acted like I was the one in the wrong. That's so frustrating. That night, I called Anna and confided in her. After learning about Kurt's anger at me because I tried to put the two of them together, she said, "If I were Kurt, I would be angry like that too. But don't be mad at him anymore. I will help you two make up." I don't know how Anna did it, but a few days later, Kurt came up to me and apologized. After that, our friendship was restored, and he never mentioned his feelings towards me again, although he did wince every time I mentioned Eric. Talking of Eric, I missed him so much, especially since the summer vacation. There were days when I just laid down on my bed and listened to his cover songs over and over again, all day long. I also read every comment from the audiences under each video. All are compliments for him, which made me very happy and proud of him. Although Eric and I rarely spoke, and I was usually the one who called first, every time I heard his voice, I felt fully charged. I could tell from his voice that he missed me too. Then one day, I was lying on my bed listening to music when my phone suddenly rang. It was Anna. She asked me, "Did you hear the news? Eric is about to debut. I accidentally saw his name on a poster in the street." I was surprised and excited. Finally, my boy could reach his dream. I immediately called Eric, and fortunately, this time he picked up. I excitedly asked him, "Are you about to debut?" Eric said he was chosen to perform the opening performance of a famous artist's concert in LA. He continued,
"I wish you could attend. I miss you so much. You should come here.
Hearing Eric say that made my heart filled with joy. To be honest, I also missed him like crazy, and I couldn't wait to see him again. But then suddenly, at that moment, an idea popped into my mind. I would surprise him. So I replied, "Oh, what a shame. I really want to see you perform, but I have a swing club concert then." His voice was low.
That's all. So don't worry. When I'm free, I'll fly back to meet you.
After Eric hung up, I eagerly called Anna and Kurt and invited them to go to LA with me. They both happily agreed. Eek! This was so exciting! I booked a flight, hotel, and prepared my belongings. I couldn't wait to see Eric's face when I surprised him. We arrived in sunny LA. Anna and Kurt went to the hotel, and I hopped in a taxi straight to Eric's house. I'd sent him a few care packages, so I knew his address. I went to Eric's door and rang the bell, but no one answered. So, even though I was super sad, this wouldn't have the same surprise effect. I sat on the doorstep and called him. After learning that I was in LA, Eric was a bit surprised, but immediately he happily said,
I just moved to a new house closer to my company to facilitate practice. I'll send you the new address.
I eagerly waited for his address to come through. Only 20 minutes passed, and he still hadn't sent it. So I called him again, only this time Will picked up and told me that Eric was urgently rehearsing for his upcoming performance, so he couldn't take the call. I felt so disheartened. I'd come all this way to see him, and now it felt like it had all been for nothing. I knew Eric was busy, but I just told him I was here in LA. So why couldn't he have grabbed a minute and explained to me that he had to rehearse? Surely he owed me that at least. I missed him so much, and I just wanted to see him, but I was beginning to feel he didn't want to see me. Hey, Haley here again. So, in the last episode, Eric had gone to LA to become a singing sensation, while I was left at home, missing him like crazy. When he told me he was performing his debut stage, I decided to go to LA and surprise him. Only, my plan failed miserably when I showed up at the wrong address. Then his manager, Will, answered the phone and told me Eric was too busy to meet me. Naturally, I felt bummed out. But Anna and Kurt insisted on cheering me up, so they took me to Disneyland. Okay, so I tried to have fun. I really did. But everywhere I looked, I saw lovey-dovey couples. Anna and Kurt seemed to be growing closer. They kept on taking pictures together. As happy as I was for them, this reminded me that Eric wasn't here with me. Then, when I was deep in thought, my phone beeped. I smiled when I saw it was a message from Eric and presumed he was sending me over his address. But instead, he said,
There are VIP tickets to collect for you. I can't wait to see you backstage after the show. Smiley face, X.
I couldn't believe my eyes. Eric had got us 3 VIP tickets. It was a sold-out show, so it was the coolest thing ever. As soon as I showed the message to my friends, Anna squealed excitedly. But I couldn't help but notice that Kurt didn't look all that thrilled. We got ready and arrived at the show super early. I went to the booth to pick the tickets up. I looked at the tickets excitedly, but what's this? There was nothing on them about being VIP tickets. There must have been a mistake, right? So I asked the lady behind the desk about it. She frowned at me and assured me there was no mistake. Annoyed, I walked off and called Eric, but unsurprisingly, he didn't answer. No doubt he was in rehearsals or something. I was really disappointed because I just wanted to be by his side, to encourage and cheer him on the first time he performed. But now I couldn't. Plus, I was a little nervous his stage fright would return. I explained the mix-up to the others, and Anna was cool about it, and Kurt just rolled his eyes and muttered out,
Figures.
I didn't bother asking him what he meant by this. I was already bummed out enough. The show was great, and Eric's performance, well, it was so amazing. He'd come on so much since I'd last heard him sing, and I was so proud of him. As soon as the show ended, I rang Eric again, and this time he picked up. I told him about the tickets, and he seemed confused. He confirmed to me that he asked the manager for 3 VIP tickets for us. Then Eric continued.
Now I'm joining an after-party. I'll send you the address. Let's meet there.
I replied, Sure, I'll be there. I miss you. I told Anna and Kurt about the party, but they both said they were tired, so made their way back to the hotel. it's okay, as I grabbed a taxi and went to the party by myself. As soon as I entered, I was overwhelmed by the bustle of the party. I'd only been there a few minutes, and I saw a super famous actor walk past me. This was so cool. I grabbed a glass of wine, stood in the corner of the room, and looked at Eric. He stood in the middle of the room, surrounded by a lot of people toasting glasses. Suddenly, I felt like an outsider. Now Eric was a rising star, and I was still an unknown child. After a while, the crowd thinned out, and then a smiling Eric walked over to me. Oh my God, my heart was beating so fast. Finally, I could meet him. I happily waved at him. But then suddenly, Will strode over and whispered something in his ear before he pulled him away. What? Why did he do that? I didn't even have time to say anything to Eric. An anxious restlessness swirled in my heart, so I secretly followed the two of them. Will pulled Eric over to the end of the hallway and said harshly,
"How dare you bring that girl here? If the press finds out, you can kiss goodbye to your career."
Eric replied,
"She's my girlfriend."
Will interrupted immediately.
"You have to keep this a secret. If your fans know that you have a girlfriend already and that she's some nobody, they will definitely turn their back on you."
After a moment of silence, Eric spoke up.
"Is it you who changed the VIP tickets to regular ones?"
He replied,
"Yeah, that was me. It's for the best. Trust me, you don't want all your efforts down the drain, do you?"
Eric was silent and said nothing. Then Will continued,
"You see, Haley saw your success, so she wanted to approach you. Think about it."
What? What did he just say? I was shocked and angry to hear this. I waited for Eric to defend me, but to my confusion, he didn't say a thing. Is this what Eric thought of me? That I was only using him to ride on his fame? I immediately stepped out and appeared in front of them. They both looked totally shocked, but I looked right at Will with wild eyes and said, "You don't need to worry. I'm out of here right now." Then I turned to Eric. "I honestly believed you had more faith in me. I guess now I know where I stand. We're over. I hope fame's everything you expect it to be." I stormed out of there, somehow managing not to burst into tears until I reached the street. My heart hurt so much when I realized a harsh fact. Popularity was the invisible wall that separated me and Eric. Then suddenly, I heard someone calling my name. I turned back and saw Eric chasing after me, but I carried on walking. He caught up with me and pulled on my hand.
"Haley, you misunderstood everything. Let me explain."
I stopped walking and said, "I think I've heard enough. Don't worry, I won't affect your career." Eric quickly interrupted me.
"No, don't say that. I'm so sorry. Haley, I promise I won't let Will interfere with our relationship anymore."
He hugged me tightly, and I felt my heart melt. It felt so familiar being in his arms. I missed him so much, and wanted to believe him. My tears kept rolling down my cheeks, but not because of anger. It was tears of love. We stood like that for a long time. Then Eric said,
"Let me take you to a place."
Then he drove me to the Griffith Observatory. And whoa, it was so beautiful. We sat there and watched the stars twinkling. This night had been a roller coaster, but right now, there was nowhere else I'd rather be. So I looked at him and said, if only this moment could last forever. Eric smiled at me, then asked,
"So, how long are you gonna stay here?"
I looked at him sadly and replied, "I have to go back tomorrow." Eric pleaded with me.
"Can you stay for another week? Next week I'm free. I'll show you the LA hotspots. Stay with me. Please?"
Swing Club could cope without me for a week, right? And it would be amazing to spend some quality time with Eric. So I agreed to stay for another week. Anna and Kurt had flights booked for the next day, so they went back. I'm glad I chose to stay, as the next week with Eric by my side was amazing. We went to so many cool places, such as the Getty Center and the Farmers Market. I was so happy to always be with him. But there was one thing that annoyed me. Eric had to wear this wig, oversized hat, and big shades to disguise himself everywhere. But anyway, I knew that was best for him, for his career, and for me. The week whizzed by, and soon my last full day in LA arrived. And although I missed my friends in Swing Club, I felt sad about leaving Eric. Eric was performing at this music festival that day, so he gave me a ticket and, grinning, said,
"Here, now I know it's definitely VIP."
This was so sweet of him, so I smiled and thanked him. The festival was huge. I'd never seen so many people before in my life. And then there was the VIP area. Oh my god, I spotted an A-list rapper praying for his performance and a famous boy band practicing their dance routine. Eric's performance was, as always, outstanding. Afterward, I rushed into the VIP area and into the big tent. Whoa, it was full of so many famous people. I tried finding Eric, then I spotted him in the corner. He was talking to a girl. I walked over to him, and I couldn't believe my eyes. With him was Clara. She's this super famous singer who's been dubbed the new Taylor Swift. I really admired her. She's only 2 years older than me, but she's achieved so much. On seeing me, Eric introduced me to Clara. It turns out she's with the same record company as him, and they were preparing to release a product together. I happily said hi to Clara and eagerly asked her to take a photo with me. I hurriedly took my phone from my bag and was about to hold it up to take a photo, but Clara immediately pushed my hand away and took a step back, then said, no, I'm not free. This surprised me, so I muttered, "Oh, okay." Then she sweetly smiled at Eric as she rubbed his shoulder and said, "Bye, Eric. I'll catch you later." Then, completely blanking me, she sashayed away. What just happened? I stood there open-mouthed and feeling confused. Honestly, what is being a famous artist? Was it necessary to deliberately act arrogant to prove herself a star like that? Hi, it's me again, Lou. In the last episode, Naomi went crazy at me when she thought Jeremy had cheated on her with me. Then she took it too far and tried to destroy my reputation by locking me in my room so I wouldn't be able to take on the host role of the fashion show. Luckily, a mysterious stranger rescued me. All I knew was that he wore cufflinks with the letter M on them. After that, just when I wanted to give Naomi a piece of my mind, I saw her crying as she found out Jeremy was with another girl. I comforted her and we made up. Then we all went to Arkansas to Will's family's hunting ranch, and that was when I realized who had rescued me that night. Mark! I couldn't stop glancing at Mark's hand as we all ate. It all made so much sense. After the barbecue, Mark said he wanted to go to the observatory to get some fresh air. This was my chance. I waited a bit, and then I headed over there so I could thank him. When I got there, Mark glanced at me, but then he turned back and kept looking at the view. I took the cufflink out of my pocket and showed it to him. Then I smiled as I said, "So you're my knight in shining armor then? The one who saved me from Naomi's horrible prank?" Mark looked at the cufflink and then said to me,
"What are you talking about? Listen, I don't have the time or energy to get involved in Naomi's stupid pranks."
Although I was quite surprised by Mark's denial, I figured he was just shy. Then I said, "It's okay. Don't be shy. I just want to thank you." But before I could even finish my sentence, he'd walked away. All right, I know this guy's stubbornness. If he didn't want to admit it, I would not bring it up again. So I just smiled and put the cufflink back in my pocket and headed downstairs. After that night, I couldn't stop thinking about Mark. Why had he rescued me? I thought he was the worst when I'd first met him, but that night in Vegas, we'd had so much fun. But then he'd left me all alone. But then he'd rescued me. It was so confusing. He'd acted cold because he had some cool guy persona to keep up, but I could feel that underneath he was the sweetest, caring guy, and this just made me want to get to know him even more. Back at Plutus Heights, I felt closer to everyone after the trip. Aaliyah was being particularly sweet to me, and one day she came to my room while I was working on a project. She looked sad and let out a big sigh as she said, "Lou, you gotta help me. I really need some advice." "What happened?" I asked her. Then she said, "My parents want me to marry the CEO of their partner company. They said it'll give our family more power and make us look good." She was almost crying as she told me this. I couldn't believe that in this day and age, there were still people arranging marriages like this, all for status and power. That's not how love works. What happened to freedom of choice? She was sobbing now as she told me the rest of the story. "This man has been chasing me for a while now. He often visits my parents' house, and I thought it was to see my dad. But now I realize it was because of me. It makes me sick. My parents keep saying I'll never have to worry about a thing because he's super rich. But he's 41. I don't want to marry some old rich guy." "What? He was like double her age. Aaliyah was only 19. That was insane. What were her parents thinking?" I comforted her and asked, "Did you try telling your parents you're not interested?" She said, "I did. I tried everything. I begged them. But they insisted that I follow the family tradition, that a daughter's marriage should be chosen by the parents because they know what's best for her. Honestly, could my life get any worse?" Poor Aaliyah. I felt so sorry for her. "Is there anything I can do to help?" I asked her. She looked at me through tears and said, "Really? You'll help me?" So I said, duh. We're friends, right? That's what friends are for." So then she told me she needed to find a guy who would pretend to be her boyfriend because she'd already blurted out to her parents that she was dating someone. Then she said, "My mom and dad want me to meet him this weekend to see if he's suitable enough for me to marry." "Have you found anyone yet?" I asked her. Then she said, "Nope, but I need someone good-looking, smart, and most importantly, he must come from a rich family. Out of our friends, the only one who ticks all of those boxes is Mark. And, okay, I'm going to be honest with you now. I've had a serious crush on him ever since I moved in here. So maybe this is my chance. I know it's so awkward to ask him, but you're in his investment club, and you two talk to each other quite often. So can you go ask him for me? Please?" Okay, I didn't like this idea one bit. Aaliyah said she had a crush on Mark, huh? I weirdly felt so uncomfortable knowing this. Suddenly, I realized that I seemed to have a crush on him too. Ever since returning from the trip to Will's hunting ranch, he had always been the last person I thought about before falling asleep. But then, maybe it was just to trick her parents. And she was my friend. I had to help her, right? So I told her I'd chat to Mark. Gosh, I'm a good friend. She was so happy and said, "Oh, Lou, thank you so much. Make sure he knows it's not for real. It's just a favor. He'll be saving my life." Okay, cool. So it was all just to please her parents. It wasn't real, and I had nothing to worry about, right? Aaliyah had been such a good friend to me, so this was the least I could do to help her. The next day, on the way back from the investment club, my car stalled right in the middle of the road and wouldn't start. I had no idea what was wrong, so I had to call and get assistance. As I was on the phone, I noticed Mark's fancy convertible parked next to me.
"Get in the car,"
he said.
"I just called the towing service."
OMG, I couldn't believe it. Once again, he showed up just when I needed help. He really was my knight in shining armor. I got into his car, and there was this super awkward silence. Then I plucked up the courage to speak to him. "Mark, are you free this Saturday? I wanted to ask if you could do me a favor. Would that be okay?"
"I'm never free,"
he replied. "Oh, okay. I mean, I knew he was a very busy person, so it was stupid of me to have even asked him. But then he said,
"What do you need?"
"Oh, so he was giving me a chance." I then told him Aaliyah's story and then nervously asked him if he'd pretend to be her boyfriend to impress her parents. I did not expect Mark to respond in the way that he did. He just laughed and said,
"How childish. Can't you think of a more convincing way? Aaliyah should just prove to her parents that she was mature enough to make her own marriage decisions."
Aaliyah tried, but it was hopeless. I put on my most persuasive face and stared at him with my puppy dog eyes all sad. This face always won my parents over, and I really hoped it would touch his heart too. He took one look at me and looked like he was about to laugh, but then he said,
"Fine, but just this one time, okay? I don't want to get caught up in all this immature love drama."
Yes! It had worked! Without even thinking, I reached over and gave him the biggest hug. I couldn't stop smiling. In a second, I secretly wished it was me who got to take him to dinner with my parents instead of Aaliyah. Then, something crazy happened. Saturday rolled around, and Aaliyah invited me to the dinner too. She thought it would make things less awkward because her parents already knew me, and I may help the conversation flow. Well, things didn't exactly go to plan. After only 10 minutes of sitting together, Aaliyah's parents outright said that Mark didn't deserve Aaliyah, that his family wasn't prestigious enough, and that they'd only gotten rich from investing in some land, and that it was just luck, not hard work or talent that had got them to where they were today. I looked over at Mark. His face was bright red, and I knew how much this was hurting him. For a guy with high self-esteem like Mark, this was just too much to bear. He immediately stood up and politely excused himself, then walked out of the restaurant. Aaliyah got up to chase after him, but her mom grabbed her arm and stopped her, so I went instead. When I got outside, I tried to pull Mark's hand back, but he pushed me away and shouted,
"Are you satisfied? They just insulted my whole family. And what's wrong with being lucky? Just because they were lucky doesn't mean they didn't work their butts off to get there. My parents are the hardest working people that I know. No one insults my family like that. No one. Do you hear me? Now leave me alone. You and Aaliyah, stay away from me."
"Mark, listen to me. Her parents didn't mean it like that. They're just blinded by their family tradition. They can't see past it. You're an amazing guy. Not many 19-year-olds work as hard as you do. You're so talented, and I admire you for this. Honestly, you're so inspiring." Mark just stared at me. Maybe, other than me, nobody had ever said that to him. Then, after a silent moment, he opened his car door and offered to drive me home. He was silent the whole way home, but after that evening, he acted differently around me. He'd always been kinda grumpy, but it was like he'd softened now and became more friendly to me. Every time I saw him, he smiled at me, and it made me so happy. He was also much more open to me. Our conversation not only revolved around the investment club, but we also shared our hobbies, family, dreams, and the things we wanted to achieve after graduation. The more we talked, the more I realized how talented and determined he was. His strictness in the club was actually how he trained himself and others to achieve their goals. That really made me admire him. And I'm not gonna lie, that admiration in me was slowly turning into a special feeling. Well, I think it could be love. As for Aaliyah, after that incident, she apologized to me and Mark for getting us involved and said her parents were so traditional. Other than that, she never mentioned this crush she had on Mark again, and I felt relieved. At least I could comfortably hang out with Mark and dream of a further future between us without having to worry that it would upset Aaliyah. And then one day, Mark asked me if I wanted to go to the grocery store with him to pick up some snacks for our Plutus Heights movie night. I happily agreed, and in the store, Mark suddenly turned to me and said,
"Can you hold this, please?"
I turned around to take whatever he was holding and said, "Sure, what is it?" Then he grinned and said,
"My hand."
In the middle of the store, he grabbed my hand and didn't let go. I couldn't believe it! This was the most romantic thing anyone had ever done for me. I couldn't believe how much he'd changed. He was so cute. I blushed and held his hand tighter. In that moment, I'd never been happier, and I wanted Mark to be by my side forever. Stay tuned for Season 2, where the drama of Plutus Heights continues. Will things develop between Mark and I? Only time will tell.